Hi, welcome to Local Lens. I'm Jenny Pastasak. So I've lived in our community for quite some time, and I tend to think I know a lot of people, but most recently at the United Way campaign kickoff, there was a nonprofit, a woman from a nonprofit that stood up and started talking about her organization that I've never even heard before. And what they do is quite amazing. So joining me today is Debra Rossi, the Executive Director of HOPE. Debra, I am interested in HOPE because I didn't really know about it. And when I heard you speak at the United Way kickoff campaign breakfast, I was like, ooh, what does this organization do? So let's talk about HOPE. You know, when did it start? And talk about your organization and your mission.
Right. So HOPE was started in 2007 by a registered nurse named Donna Clark. And Donna was doing outreach, street outreach, in her medical profession to offer resources. You know, back at that time, we didn't have all of the resources we have now. We didn't have Medicaid to the expansion that we have now. So people were really at risk and lacking resources.
We didn't have Medicaid like that?
Not the way we do now.
Wow.
No. So, you know, now I have regular conversations with people about primary care physicians and mental health assistants and medications, but those things were not as accessible. We also had a lot different transportation. We still have transportation challenges now. So she was doing street outreach.
Okay.
And then was involved in other organizations, but that was her passion. She had a real heart for the homeless, and now we're housed. She was housed in the basement of Wycomico Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
So, you know, basic resources. We don't have a lot of overhead because the church is very generous in hosting us, but we aren't handicap accessible because you have to come down into the basement.
Right.
So there's always challenges. I still participate in street outreach to a certain extent, since the streets are walking in. To me now, since we operate as a day shelter, I don't get to walk the streets with the team, but they check in, and I do the every other week weekly recap. So that's kind of a new resource, which gives you what the definition of HOPE is. We are an access point for resources and advocacy for low income, at risk, and homeless individuals. So all of our programs, whether they're temporary or long-term, are geared towards low-income individuals. And so they're going to face a lot of barriers and lack a lot of resources that you or I would take for granted. The fact that I drove here in my car. I've never used public transportation. I have a telephone that works so I can make my doctor's appointments.
We take everything for granted.
We take everything for granted. I took a shower this morning. Oh. So we have mobile shower services now at HOPE. And Tuesdays and Thursdays, anyone can take a shower, no questions. We have a great partnership with a local laundromat that washes all our towels for free. But it was one more thing. I go to the laundromat a lot more now, but how generous. Yeah. And then there's a local company that pumps out the tanks for us for free. So I don't know if people realize, just like you didn't know what HOPE was, I don't think people realize how generous our behind-the-scenes community is. And everyone has something to offer an agency like mine that is, you know, doing the boots on the ground work.
Sure. And you just said a shower. So that makes me think, you know, how good does it feel after you're dirty and you take a shower? This is dignity. Yes. Almost, you know?
Dignity. Human basic needs delivered with compassion and humanity. And last night, I unfortunately had to attend a funeral for one of my homeless clients who passed away over the weekend. And a lot of people in the community read about the call and that sort of thing. But this church, he was a member of a church family. And they held a memorial service for him and invited everyone. And it was beautiful. You know, we found his mother. You know, everyone has a story. Right. They didn't start where I meet them. No. And they don't always finish where I meet them. My favorite shower stories are someone sits in front of my desk and says, I want treatment. I have a team I can call. And they show up. I have a shower. I said, let's get you a shower.
Yeah.
Did you get your lunch yet? So they can go off into that very scary place of recovery
Yeah.
with a moment and a lot of support.
And it's very scary because maybe they've already tried it and failed, but
Yeah.
the door is always open.
It's never too late. There's
Yeah.
never a limit on the miracles of sobriety or all of the other life-changing things. There's no limit.
But so they have to decide that it's time, I think.
In that instance,
Yes.
yes. So you're welcome at Hope, regardless of where you are on your journey, whether it includes active drug or alcohol addiction. We do a lot of work with the recovery community because here are people who've already gone through a first stage of treatment, but they have to rebuild their lives. They may have been homeless and now they're housed in 3.1 housing. So my partnership with all of those agencies to make sure that those individuals have all their documents. Everyone has to start with their documents. You can't get a job, you can't get a house, you can't get anything if you don't have identification.
Okay.
Nothing.
You start down here.
You have to meet people where they are.
Sure.
At Hope, that's a big net.
Sure.
We have an oral health program. So we're providing dentures for individuals with Medicaid who can access all of the other Medicaid benefits. Will pull all of your teeth, but they won't give you new ones.
That's tough because if you're applying for a job, I guess you
and
need
that's,
some teeth.
That is a huge demographic. We have elderly. We have working poor. We have the recovery community, young people who were living the hardest of lives.
Sure.
And now they're clean and sober and ready to enter society. They're ready to go back to work. They're going to be super productive. I am a woman of recovery.
Okay.
And so what they have ahead of them is endless. But yes, you have to restore their own dignity and self-esteem.
Because
and
it's
that
a
can
second
start
chance.
with the simplest of things, which can be dental care. And, that's a whole enormous thing. We lack providers in this area for everything. If you've needed a specialist, you faced that barrier.
And
so.
I just knowing, because I've done some work with the Mission of Mercy when it was that free dental clinic.
Yes, we love the Mission of Mercy.
The free
Great
dental
partner.
clinic. And I'm like, this is free? This is free. People are going to line up, and they did. They lined up, and they waited. They were patient, and when they walked out, they were beaming with a smile on their face.
Some of those people are in an enormous amount of pain with no access to dental care. If you called just randomly a provider that provides Medicaid covered dental care, your waiting list is probably 12 to 18 months.
And that's just too long, in the sense of
and
getting
the goal
back.
is we don't want a person with an abscessed tooth, which is a very serious infection, very painful and dangerous. We don't want them in the ER. We want them to be seen, to get the antibiotics they have to be on, so then we can take them to the next step so the abscess doesn't recur.
Sure.
And I've learned a lot about that. I've had the ER send someone across the street. They got their antibiotics, of course, but then they needed to go, where do I go now? So that the abscess doesn't recur, so that we treat the root of the problem once the infection clears up. And those partnerships, to realize that this little teeny tiny nonprofit is partnering with Tidal Health, University of Maryland Dental School, is a part of Mission of Mercy. That's amazing. Do you ever think that you can't make a difference? I'm here to tell you, you can.
A big difference.
You can make a huge difference with little resources and, a lot of steady effort. But it really starts with seeing a need, meeting that person where they are, and then we try to hook them up with the best resources for them. I'm not here to solve everything for everybody.
Right.
We aren't going to solve homelessness. You can't find a simple solution to a complex problem. They're not all homeless for the same reason. You can be suddenly homeless. You can be homeless because you're couch surfing. You can be homeless because you were incarcerated and a family member is letting you reside with them. There are, not everyone is street homeless.
Understood.
There are mothers living in their cars, young women who finished their recovery program but have not rebuilt their financial position. Could you rebuild your whole life in a year and get sober?
I just experienced a woman who approached me in a parking lot, and she said she lived in her car, just here in Salisbury, and it made me, it took me, I was like, oh, so, I was at the grocery store, and I'm thinking, you live in she had a child, like, it's so complex.
It is so complex.
It's not, there's no easy answer to helping someone like that, get to where they would like to be. There's just so many different challenges in their life.
Yeah, but compassion and empathy are easy.
Yes.
Those are easy.
So during the day program, because I've heard of different, shelters.
Sure.
It's during the day, you're out looking for a job. You cannot stay during the day.
You cannot stay.
But what do you do during the day with the people that, you're working with?
Right. So we're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
So that's only 3 out of 7 days where we're offering day shelter and all of our other services.
Okay.
Right now, you need an ID to even go into a shelter. So imagine that. That's the basic thing you probably don't have, because if you're living on the street with no safe place, it's getting lost, it's getting stolen. So we are doing a lot of vital documents.
Wow.
My goal is that everyone should have identification, whether you can prove your address or not. So think of that too. If you just went through Real ID, you had to prove your address. So you had to give 2 pieces of mail.
You don't have it, or you just don't
have it. So you can't always change the system, but you work within the system you have available to you.
Okay.
And those systems, our local systems, can be very friendly.
Okay.
Because we do have the common goal. I mean, the police department would like for everyone to have an identification.
Sure.
The MVA would really like everyone to have identification. Is identification and address the same thing? They're not. What is the goal?
Right. Right.
So we can navigate some of those challenges to accomplish some of those things. We can be recognized as an agency that caters to the population. Your address at the shelter can be recognized. So you have to learn those things to help individuals navigate that, because they will stop at the 2 pieces of mail.
Yeah, they're like, I can't.
Right.
I'm done.
Some
They give
states
up.
want 2 pieces of mail in order to provide a birth certificate. And then you have to have your birth certificate to get your ID.
You can't. It's a no-win situation.
It is. And my first introduction to that was with a family member. He was incarcerated, released from incarceration. His mother was deep in her addiction, had lost everything. She had a roof over her head, but she was technically homeless, and was my sister. And my nephew was released from jail. 10 days after he got out of jail, she died. We lost her to her addiction, and he had nothing. And I had plenty of access to resources, so I would drive him to the Social Security office, and they said, you need an ID to get your Social Security card. But they never told me you could order a certified medical record. Nobody told me that. So then I'd go to the MVA and say, well, how do we get his ID if we can't get his Social Security card? And that was the beginning of my journey. When I found out about HOPE and
Yes.
that's what they were doing, I was like, this is the place for me. I have to go.
You're
I
the
have to
navigator.
volunteer.
You help people navigate.
And I was
that
driving
system.
him back and forth. He
Yes.
didn't have any transportation. He didn't have any
So
identification.
imagine that. You have to go to another place, and really that's not the place you need to go to, but you have to figure out how to get there to get something that's not there. Like, it's such an uphill battle.
And did you know there's no bus stop at the MVA? The closest bus stop to the MVA is either Warwick
What?
or Calvary Street near me. It's 3 miles.
That would be a really important thing to have in a community.
And I'm sure Shore Transit's going to see this, and we're going to fix that problem.
Okay.
Because there was one once before, but the bus is going by there.
Yes.
So we started adding private transportation once or twice a month.
Okay.
and
To get people to
that,
where they need to go.
to get them where they needed to go, because we have to meet the ultimate goal
Right.
of getting them an ID so they can get on to the next things.
And while, I mean, that's the thing, that is definitely, you say, the first piece, an important piece, but they're also struggling with all of these other, like food insecurity and,
So we
like you
serve
said,
lunch.
do you need something to eat too?
Right.
Because
So we serve lunch 3 days a week. I
Okay.
have a wonderful kitchen crew. They're all volunteers. We welcome more volunteers. We welcome community partners that want to help us with.
Yes.
That's an expensive program. We're feeding up to 120 people.
Okay.
And it's a hot meal on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Typically, we're entering the winter months, so everything will be mostly hot. Wednesdays are a new service day for us, so that's a to-go bag lunch. All the lunches are served to go, so you can come and just get lunch. And it's a whole network. So people that need food, they do learn where they can get those things. We also keep up to date with where the food pantries are in all of the areas, so that if we get clients that are not unhoused, but living in poverty with the many needs, hard to make ends meet,
Kids,
we can
children.
help them with the resources in their geographic area.
Yeah. Because that's, I mean, another piece is some of these are families, not just individuals.
Yes. And we have, amazing agencies. The more I learn, we like to have a resource day. So twice a year we have a resource day and we bring everybody together.
Yes.
And I mean, somebody new at every single one, or as we're planning, every single one that's doing amazing things.
Right.
It's frustrating though when you hear somebody is complaining about something that's not being done. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Are you sure it's not being done?
It's not being done because you didn't even know about Hope, and we've been here for years because it's been a very quiet agency.
Yeah.
We had a year of incredible growth. Our founder retired. I did not want this position as executive director. I wanted to volunteer and make the coffee and learn a couple things, but apparently my path was meant to be something different. So I am now on a mission to raise awareness. Being part of United Way is certainly a huge step in that. And I have a lot to learn. The nonprofit world is multi-layered.
Yes, it's very extensive. And I think in our community, there are so many nonprofits that are all doing, like you said, great, wonderful things.
And I love all of those that are willing to collaborate so we can expand our reach, so that we can have new resources for our clients. I like to say my love language is collaboration.
Collaboration.
Yeah, but I guarantee every person knows someone that needs what we're doing at Hope, or has loved someone. You probably heard that.
Yes.
That's how I did my introduction at the United Way breakfast.
It's true. It's so
How many
true.
times did you raise your hand? Do you remember?
I did a lot. I did. But that's, sometimes people don't even realize the extent of it. They might know some, but they don't really know the struggle. They don't see the whole struggle. So they don't think about it enough to say, oh, maybe they haven't eaten in 2 days, because they just don't have the resources.
Yeah.
But you, like you said, you're every nonprofit out there doing wonderful things. You're also competing for some dollars to help that happen.
Yeah,
But
sure,
you
sometimes.
also
But I
write grants.
yes, you have to. I'm in a big class on that now.
Okay.
Because you need all of it. Yes, you need cash resources. I have to pay my staff.
Let's talk about your staff. It's very small, right?
It's small, yes. So back in the origin story, it was just the director and volunteers, and she had an office manager. And we have a case manager now who mostly handles our vital documents division, which is very extensive.
Yes.
And we have a program coordinator. So she's a community health worker. So she's been the perfect fit. She came to us from a dental office.
Okay.
So she's been miraculous with the oral health program because we can really not only offer the resources we have available to meet their oral health care needs, but we
Sure.
can do education. We're doing a screening event on Friday. So we have a wait list of about 100 people needing funding for dental or access to dental care.
Okay.
And we've partnered with one of our providers. They'll come. It's like a mini mission of mercy. Procedures won't be
Really?
done,
Okay.
but we'll be able to assess their treatment, what they need, how extensive those needs are,
Yes.
and then pair them with the right provider. So, for example, if you're fully edentulous, you have no teeth, and you haven't had teeth for some time, we can get you, if you qualify for our program, you can go directly to our affordable dentures and we can get you teeth. You know, but if you have teeth that are broken off and you hadn't had oral health care in, say, 10 years, you probably are going to end up at an oral surgeon.
Yes.
And there are none of those on the Eastern Shore that accept Medicaid. You have to go across the bridge.
What?
Yeah.
If you don't have transportation, how are you getting across the bridge?
Yes, I think they're using
Okay.
very creative ways
Okay.
because we don't have a budget to provide. We've provided limited transportation in very specialized cases.
Okay.
But let me give you an example. We got a call, an uninsured individual needed emergency, life-saving heart surgery. So the case managers, Tidal Health called. These are the types of partnerships, you know, and we actually did a GoFundMe because he didn't qualify for my grant funds, which are very restrictive.
Okay.
But we raised the money and we had to send him across the bridge. We coordinated some transportation with another. He's getting his oral surgery at University of Maryland Dental School. But this is insane. How is a little teeny tiny nonprofit involved in, you know, that? But that's how hard the work is for even our largest resources. You know, case managers are willing to do whatever it takes to put the pieces together. And we've solved oral health problems for people, so
Yeah.
we can help you solve that problem.
Sure.
But sometimes the answer is no. You know, like it is really hard to have restrictive funding and limited resources and to tell someone who is in desperate need, these are your options, you know.
But there are options.
There's always options. I like to say there
yeah.
are choices sometimes for almost all of our clients. Sometimes the choices just all suck.
Yeah.
But their power lies in making the choice. And the compassion lies in respecting someone's choice.
Yes. I think that's important when it comes to this population, you know, of people that, like I said, the dignity part,
Yeah.
you know, they're humans. And I think that we need to respect them.
Yes. And when someone says, I would rather sleep outside than go into a shelter, they may or may not be ready to tell you the story of why that is.
That I have been aware of that in an instance where a friend did pick someone up on the side of the road, like to give them a ride. It was to Ocean City from Salisbury, and this gentleman shared that he chose to be homeless, and that's like, you know, when you hear that, you're like, what? Why? Why is life easier? Because, you know, don't have to make decisions, don't have to, you know, and I think mental health is a big piece of that too. So you don't know the whole story, you can't really, you know, have to judge someone.
So if you met someone on the street and they needed mental health services, do you know where to tell them to go?
I mean, off the cuff, I wouldn't really know I wouldn't have something at the top of my head.
Right. Tidal Health Crisis Center, open 8 to 8 on Vine Street. And they can, you know, so that's the other hard part.
Yeah.
We have to know. If we're going to be a resource, we have to know what all the other resources are.
That's true.
But that is also fun. I have met the most incredible, hardworking people. And I just really do want people to realize how hard the work is and how many people are out here doing it. And that's like, we need to feed the homeless. Are you sure you don't know who of us are feeding? And I would caution people, would you want somebody coming into your house and telling you what you had to eat and then expecting you to be grateful for it?
No. I mean,
so it's really hard.
Understand.
Street outreach can be very enticing because you feel like you're making an immediate difference.
Sure.
But you need to partner with someone who can teach you how street outreach works, where to provide access so that individuals can come to you.
Understood.
You have to be visible
Yes.
and patient. It is a miracle to me every time I learn something new about someone's story.
Yeah.
But that takes time. Relationships.
Trust.
They'll come into trust.
Yes.
They're watching. They're watching how we're behaving. They're
Yes.
coming to the day shelter. And they're talking on the streets. And, then they're bringing their friends. And that's a big moment when someone walks in and said, I brought you one of my friends today.
Because that shows that they do trust you.
Yeah. And I won't do anything to break that.
No. Because it's a safe place. I
It
think
has
that's
to be.
probably important, a place where they can feel safe. Because it's not safe out there all the time.
No.
And
it's not.
and I would say the reality of just society and people and the way they're treated.
Right.
Because it's interesting. We talk about the homeless population or downtown Salisbury. I want to talk when I talk to people. I'm like, so you're scared to go downtown because of homeless people. What do you think they're going to do to you? They're not going to hurt you. That's where they might ask. They might put their hand out and ask for something. But do you really think they're out to hurt? No, not at all. Not at all. So that's why when I talk to people and like, why are you scared of homeless people?
I'll give you all business cards so you can feel like you have something to offer them.
Yes.
To make sure that they know where to find hope and they can get fed.
You don't have to be scared of them,
No, they're amazing. That's they're just like you and me.
Yeah.
With whole histories and children and families. There's somebody's son. There's somebody's brother. There's somebody's daughter.
Yeah.
And they've faced a lot of trauma. And yes, some of them have untreated mental illness. Our biggest challenge is how do you keep someone medically regulated that has no place to store their prescriptions, doesn't know what day of the week it is. Some of the mental health challenges are so complex.
Yeah.
So we're working on new resources for those with our outreach team. That is multifaceted so that we have case managers and leaders from other programs and, basic services represented. There's a lot going on so that we can start to make sure they do get to the crisis center where they might be able to get access to medication,
And you think about if someone said, I'm ready, where do I go? They need to detox, in a sense.
Right.
So you have a place to send them.
Yeah, so our recovery community around here is strong. We are really using a lot of the resources to fight opioid addiction and the other, but street drugs are also constantly changing. But yes, there is an outreach team called COAT, and I hand out their business cards. They come on the spot. If I have someone who says they're ready to go to treatment, it's an immediate response. That miracle happens in a moment.
Okay.
And if you waste too much time, the
I just
moment
got the
can
goosebumps.
pass.
So it's like you have to take that opportunity right then and there.
You really, really do. And sometimes we still lose them by the time, it's a big decision.
Yeah.
And especially if they have been through it before. But yes, there are amazing teams at work. And my goal is to make sure that we have access for all of our people to those resources. And, they come in with new questions and new challenges. And so, then we're out there, who does that and how do they do it and calling them up. Because I do think the only way we'll make long-lasting change is through collaboration, and that is with the local shelters, with the law enforcement, with the government officials, with the general public,
Yeah, everyone.
raising awareness. Downtown is not scary during the day. Yeah, I wonder what it's like at night under the bridge. It scares me to think what my people are going through. They're our neighbors. I call them my people because most of them are, my friends. Like, I know them. And so if I have leftover things, I do go down to the river walk. I had one ask me one time, "Are you afraid to come down here?" And I was like, "Why would I be afraid? Like,
Yeah.
you just came into my place. Like, we just saw each other.
Yes.
It's fine."
Yes.
But that's an indication that he doesn't think it's necessarily safe for me to come there.
Right.
But that's relative too. I doubt many of us are out gallivanting at, under the river walk at 9
No,
o'clock.
no.
At
probably
midnight
not.
or whatever.
I mean, I'm a runner and I run through it during the day. But yeah, I think, but what they're exposed to, we don't know. 'Cause
We
we're
really
not-
don't know.
We're
So
not out there.
I worry about that too. Public perception of just an overall sense of fear, like you said, if you don't really know.
You don't.
Yeah.
So do you hold fundraisers to help raise money? Or you've got so many things going on.
Fundraiser. Haven't had time to plan a big one of those lately.
Yeah.
So we're very reliant on our regular donors,
Okay.
that are giving. The smallest amounts matter when you're doing
Yes.
this. We're
Yes.
feeding people, say 120 people, but we're doing it for less than $2 a meal. So $25 every month is feeding an awful lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah. So we rely on grant funding quite a bit, which is precarious at the moment and hard to come by, and there is a lot of competition.
Yes.
We are starting an endowment fund so that we can think more long term about how to be sustainable.
So you're starting the endowment fund with,
And we'll work with the Community
Community Foundation? Okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say,
Yes,
great
because
resource.
we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And I am in a seminar with them right now because they, like the United Way, offer so many resources. So as a director, I need all of those people. And being a part of that, then I also get invited to other places where I can learn and share
Sure.
what we're doing. So you can always go to the website and donate. But we're also starting to do a little bit more outreach. We've been getting an enormous amount of donations of gently used clothing, which helps with the shower and those that lack resources. I told you about the people that just generously provide services. There's not enough coffee at Sam's Club to keep me going.
I didn't even think about that.
What do you
but
want
I know how important it is
first
to me.
thing? Yes, and don't bring me decaf, please. And, sugar and creamer. And it's so fun first thing in the morning. So no matter what time I arrive, somebody's waiting for me.
Okay.
They will help me carry my bags inside because I always look like a
bag lady.
carrying the purse and all the things. They'll plug in the coffee pot because it takes 30 minutes for that thing to warm up. And then they'll start making the coffee and turning on the lights. And we got a smart TV so that there's television. And sometimes we keep the lights in the back a little lower so everybody can wake up. And if it's raining, we immediately start handing out dry socks.
It's the things you say. You keep saying things, and I'm like, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, who wants wet feet?
I had somebody walk in. He's a regular, and we are working to stabilize his mental health. So that for me means the trust piece is big.
Yeah.
Just greeting him, caring for him. He doesn't like me to say no, but sometimes no is no. But he was really facing some challenging times and came in, had been treated at the hospital. He was wearing hospital socks and paper scrubs.
What?
And that was it. So, by the end of the day, he was showered, he was clothed.
Yes.
We had the chairman of my board is a former ER doctor, so we'd, double checked his wound, and, we're really able to, and that means he's knew he was safe and had a place to go.
Yes.
But that's 3 days a week.
Yeah, where is he the rest of the, that's
Yeah.
the big question mark. And then when he comes back, what does he come back look,
Right.
the consistency I think is important.
Yeah. So I go into the detention center to do birth certificates for inmates. We had a reentry program for a while. It was grant funded, and the funding ended. But that again was very personal to me.
Yes.
And I learned a lot going in and talking to the inmates, even in just the short amount of time I'm processing their birth certificates. But that's getting them a step ahead.
Yes.
You know.
Before they are let out.
Right. So that we're on track for the vital documents. It's also giving them a place to go. So, an inmate that was street homeless is going to be street homeless again if they
Yes.
aren't connected with the right resources.
Right.
And the case managers at the detention center are wonderful partners. We work together to try to meet the needs of those that are incarcerated, and there are programs also to help those that come in regular contact with law enforcement to get stabilized. Sometimes I'm relieved. Sometimes I'm devastated to find out that one of our clients has been incarcerated, and sometimes I'm really relieved because I know for the moment they're safe, and they were getting to a point where they weren't safe.
Yeah.
But then what happens? How do we break that cycle and maybe change this time?
Right. To stay safe and
to stay
continue to
safe.
grow.
Yes, and if they have run through their resources in this area, we have the opportunity to then maybe make referrals. It's called a COC, so that means continuum of care. And
Yes.
so ours is the lower shore, and then we have the mid shore. And each area is specific to their demographic, but you don't have a lot of people serving. So Healthport is a main source of the programs for our mental health here in town.
Okay.
But if they have no longer been accepted into that program, we can do a transfer to a different COC to maybe see if we can stabilize them in a different area. And sometimes geography matters. If you're street homeless and we can get you stabilized somewhere else, and get you into long-term treatment,
Yes.
Get your mental illness under control, and then see what underlying other things. You can't just house someone with mental illness and expect it to be successful.
Right.
That's a multi-layered
Yes.
problem.
You have to get to the root.
Right. So, but I have somebody I can call and say, this client is at risk. They are banned from services here in town for reasons I may or may not be aware of. I can stop at, no, they're not eligible.
Okay.
Can we do a referral to a different
To like
area?
the midshore.
Right, to the midshore.
And you did say geography. In my mind, that makes sense to me because you think about, an addict or someone who goes back to their neighborhood. Well, you're just going back to the fire.
Yeah.
So if you can almost pull yourself out of that fire and go somewhere else, there's a lot of hope there.
Yeah. Yeah, there is, because a fresh start can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Sure, people get sober all the time, right where they are.
Yes.
But sometimes, treatment options, you go wherever there is a bed available.
Yes.
And then if you're doing long-term treatment, same thing. You're accepted into a program that's offering you housing for a more extensive period of time to give you a better chance at long-term recovery. So same thing with mental illness. We have to find the resources available for each individual client.
I mean, you're dealing with, not just food insecurity, homelessness, drug addiction, addiction issues, and mental illness. There's even an identification. Let's start there. There's so much.
There's so much. $40 for an ID is a lot if you're having a hard time making ends meet and feeding your children. And that's the cost of an ID, not even a driver's license.
$40 for an ID.
For an ID.
But it's possible to get that ID because you, like you said,
Oh,
like
we'll
you
get
help
it.
people. Okay. All right. She's like, but it's, hey.
We're going to get it. I don't know how long it's going to take.
Right.
But we're going to get it. So there's a gentleman that's been chronically homeless. He has family in the area, so I don't think he's always on the street. Very sweet, very sweet. He came in for lunch. This was early on in my time at Hope. And I just happened to ask him if there was anything else we could do for him that day.
Okay.
And he said he needed an ID. And I was like, well, we can do that.
Yeah.
So this was like a year ago. Okay, it took us a minute, and he got a little frustrated, but we got it.
Okay.
We got it. And then I got him a wallet at like Family Dollar or something.
Sure.
He is so proud of this wallet. He still has this wallet. So he comes in, and his ID had been stolen, but somehow he still had his wallet. But we had scanned his ID in, so we could get him a new one online. We didn't have to take him there again. We didn't have to worry about him getting
that's
transportation
way
again.
Easier.
Yes, because too much stuff, and he will get frustrated and just give up. So now I don't know how the ID got lost in that, but anyway. I'm sure there's a story there.
He probably has a new ID in that same wallet.
He may have told my case manager the story, but now he has a new ID in his wallet. I had a wallet in my desk, and I gave it to somebody else the other day. They were very excited. So, yeah, I guess I'll take wallet donations.
Yeah, wallet donations, too. Empty or, hey, you could put some cash in there, too.
Yeah, I asked another gentleman for if he had his ID on him because I needed to copy it. We were starting to work on some things for him. And a lot of times the regulars will come in for a little while before I'll sit down and do full intake, make sure I have all the details, get them to tell me their story, that sort of thing. Just can get a little crazy in there. I don't know what they were in. It looked like a little candy wrapper or something. I guess it was a very strategic thing. But I couldn't figure out what he was doing. I was like, are you keeping your ID in there? Yeah, it was like a packet of something.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never saw the front, but it was like had like a little Ziploc top. So
and I understand,
maybe I'll get him a wallet.
I understand, like when when they come, you're not going to just immediately start with a clipboard. Like, okay, your name, what's your story? Like you do need to give them time to feel it out, and then decide, okay, I'm going to share some of my story with you.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, it's trust. And they have to trust you before they realize that you're going to help them, I think.
And sometimes I can be a little strategic about it. They'll ask for a sleeping bag, which is clearly an indication of street homelessness.
Yeah.
So I can invite them in for a conversation. But I've learned I really need to lead with yes. If I'm not going to give them one, I don't need to put them through an entire interview for the purposes of my grant reporting and to strategically figure out what else we really need.
Sure.
Be it mental health or whatever. So I have learned to lead with, I'm going to be able to give you a sleeping bag today, but would you be willing to answer a few questions and kind of make it a conversation? And I've also learned to tell them they never have to answer anything they don't want to answer. I had a new client, newly back to this area, very distraught last week. 2 kids, trying to get them enrolled in school, precarious living situation, a definition of homeless. And one of the questions on homeless intake in our system where you can track, so if you're part of the COC and you get funding for that, you use this system called HMIS. And I asked her if she was a survivor of domestic violence. And she immediately started crying. And I said, you don't need to answer that. Let's just let's just skip that question for today. And, I always have tissues there. And we didn't revisit the question.
Yeah.
But I did give her the number and a little handy brochure I keep for life crisis. Because whatever it is that triggered that response is a trauma related to some kind of abuse.
Yes. That needs to be addressed.
In order for her to be able to thrive as a mother under the enormous stress she's facing right now.
Yes. And that's what I was going to ask you. It's not like I run across homeless people a lot, but I do,
Sure.
Where do you tell them to go? Should I tell them to go to Hope, and what's the address, or like what, for people that are watching, let's say they usually ignore every person they see that's on the side of the road with a sign.
I really do mean it about the business cards. We have generic business cards that have our hours and our location and all of those things on it.
Yes.
And if you're the type of person who just is uncomfortable not doing something, I don't give out money. I give out food and business cards and resources and kindness and, sure, sometimes a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I'll deliver things down to the park. I ride around with blankets in my trunk, though. I'm not the average bear. Then go on the internet, print yourself out a little something that makes you feel, and yes, send everyone to Hope.
Okay.
Because we may not be able to meet their needs. We can feed them lunch that day.
Yes.
We can give them a safe place to be, and we will form a relationship with them, and we will always offer them shelter services. There are not beds available. The shelters are not just waiting for people to fill the beds.
No,
they are full.
They are full.
But we can talk about where they're staying and do they need a sleeping bag.
A sleeping bag.
And
a blanket.
Do they need treatment? I stopped one morning under the train trellis, which is on my way to work, and I hate when they're standing right there where that gate is. It feels so precarious for both those of us in the car and for them.
Yes.
But I'll pull into the Royal Farms there and then walk over. And sometimes I'll have breakfast or I'll just be on my way to Hope. So I'll say, we're open today.
Yeah.
Come have lunch. He showed up.
Okay.
He went to treatment.
He did.
I haven't seen him, but he's called me from treatment. And he wasn't from here. I said, I don't think you're built for the streets. You want to try something different. And just a wonderful man whose circumstances and disease had led him to that place.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I stopped. But that's not me. That's just.
And it might not be every single person that you say come for. I think that it.
If they say they don't need anything, that's fine too.
Yeah. I think that's an important piece. You can't force someone into something that they're not ready for.
It's not about what I think they should do.
No. You're right. I mean, I think too many people walk around thinking it is.
Right.
But,
I don't even, we could do a whole other thing on get a job, because let's just remember, you cannot work yourself out of some of these problems, and you can't get a job if you don't have an ID.
So true.
And I doubt you want your employees showing up if they haven't had a shower.
These are facts, and you're chipping away.
No simple solutions to complex problems.
No.
But together, we can affect change.
Collaboration.
Yeah, 100%.
That is your love language,
That
right?
is my love language. Yes.
Well, Debra, thank you so much for joining us, telling us more, and me, about Hope. I love the name. It's because it's what you do.
And it does stand for Help and Outreach Point of Entry.
Okay.
So it's an acronym because I guess the nonprofit world just didn't have enough acronyms.
So we
so we have to have a few more. And we're located at Wycomico Presbyterian Church, open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the basement. And our webpage is hopesby.com.
That's easy to remember.
So I've shared a lot of stories about the people that had good outcomes. And I told you the story of the person that I stopped and he went off to treatment.
Yes.
That stuck with me because he was from the same state as my husband. So we had a lot to talk about while we were pulling all this together. But prior to that, many months before that, I stopped and did the same thing, delivered breakfast and my card to someone who he didn't speak to me when I left those things, but he showed up and I didn't want to approach him or anything. I just said hi. He was having lunch and we have a sign-in sheet. So I was trying to figure out, does anybody know who he is, what his name is? We kept coming. And eventually I did learn his name, and he was such a funny young guy, very young.
Okay.
Not an adolescent, but in his early 20s, about the same age as my son at the time.
Oof.
And, was really struggling, but he would come and he would tell me how his day was going or how the weekend had been. And then I asked him, I said, well, why don't you start doing a little work around here, to help me out? Because he'd become friendly with all the staff and much more outgoing than our original interaction. And he's gone. I don't know where he went, and I don't know what happened to him. And I never stopped looking under that train trellis to see, or hoping that he won't walk in. And I hope that he's doing great.
Yeah.
That he is reunited with his family, getting the mental health support that he needed. He even still had braces on his teeth because it'd been that long since he'd been to the dentist. So
Oh my goodness.
we were going to start working on that, trying to figure out how to get his oral health started.
Sure.
Certainly we don't partner with orthodontists, but that's the thing you don't always hear about. You're so
he obviously
busy.
came from a place where he had braces put on. So,
Right.
So he was somewhere where that was a normal thing.
At
and
some
now,
point,
yeah.
things changed and he lost his family. I do know, he told me about he had some very traumatic experiences with loss. And so I think that he was probably thrown out into homelessness at early adolescence, early 20s or that sort of thing. But you're so busy helping the people that are right in front of you and grateful for the people that show up that you get to help, that sometimes you forget who you didn't see.
Yeah.
And I think he was my reminder, because I'll never stop looking for him, hoping.
Yes.
And I hope one day he walks in and I don't even recognize him, like that but even if he doesn't, I'll believe that he's doing well.
That he's doing well.
Yeah. So it goes back to that small kindnesses, the compassion.
Yeah. I think that sometimes people help because it makes them feel good, but in the end, it's when it comes, that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But when you can see the person you helped doing good, I don't know. It's just that feeling is so wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So I know it's hard when you pass the panhandlers and you get frustrated, but the ones that are just waving, wave back. See them. They have a story.
I started doing something a little different, and I started smiling.
Yeah.
Instead of, that paranoid, okay,
turning away, where do I
turn
look?
green
It's so
I
awkward.
can go.
Yeah.
That's where you're like, I don't have to give them anything.
No.
But a smile or a wave, that you smile, they're going to smile back.
Yeah. A lot of the times.
And their life is not as good as so I think that smile made a difference. And I do think about that.
Because you saw them.
Yeah. Well, and I think about that too, Deborah, that,
Yeah.
there's so many people that are, you don't, like, you're nothing to me, or, they don't see them.
Yeah.
And that's got to be really hard.
I told my intern that. We got our first social work intern from SU, which is so exciting. And I told her, I said, this is going to change your interaction in town, because you're going to know who's walking down the street. You're going to see your friends at the library. Mm-hmm. And she said it happened so quickly that even though I told her, mm-hmm. she still wasn't prepared. But it's not just that she knew them. She changed because she started looking. Because you have to be looking if you're going to see someone.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But that's a beautiful thing.
It is.
I think, and to be seen is a beautiful thing.
And when they come in, she can say, "Oh, I saw you outside the library,"
Yes.
And that personal connection is getting us one step closer to hearing the story, which can lead us to real assistance for them.
Because they're someone, like you said. They're someone's father, someone's daughter, someone's mother. They are someone.
Yeah, someone important.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
So if you're driving down the road and you see someone who's got their hand out, maybe they're asking for money or food, maybe the best thing that you can do is send them to Hope and direct them to an organization that's going to help them with resources that they need to get their life back on track. My name is Jenny Pastisak. You're watching Local Lens. I'll see you next time.